And it's amazing because a yoke is such an old kind of thing. It has to do with, it's the thing they put between two oxes when they were plowing a field or whatever, and it kept them going the same. Or like you see a stagecoach, right? You see the board that's between the two horses that keeps them going at the same pace. They stay together. And where Jesus is saying, he's saying, look, you come to me, I'm going to take care of it all. I'm going to take care of everything for you. If you're heavy laden, if you're weary, if you're hurt, come to me. You know what's amazing? Jesus was very, very approachable. And I want you to think about this. Think about the type of people that wanted to go around Jesus. You think about Christians. I think about people that I knew that I would consider like really devout type Christians or whatever in my life growing up or whatever. Some people were pretty nice, approachable. Some people weren't, Some people, you got to be honest here because, really, you have to be honest with yourself on this. Have you ever been in situations where you just don't want to go around somebody, like you go to church, you're like, oh, I don't want to get around that guy, because you just made you feel like crap. You didn't show up to church one Sunday because you wanted to go out and enjoy yourself, and you go back the next Sunday and you're feeling like something in your stomach, like, oh, I just don't want to deal with these people. That's not right. That's not healthy. That's not right at all. God wants you to enjoy life. God's given you a life to enjoy, and God's burden is not like that. God is not a God who condemns you like that's people. People, it's sad because so many Christians have become opposite what Jesus was. Jesus drew the most worst of people to him because they saw something in him that they didn't see in the Pharisees and all the other bad religious garbage people that were in their day. They saw a man who actually cared, who was humble, who was gentle, who wanted to help them. People know when you have a heart to help them. People will see that. They'll know if you're phony and they'll know if you're not. Bottom line. If you really want to help somebody, you really care about somebody, they'll see that in you. They saw that in Jesus. I remember this one guy saying, and I heard him preaching, I love listening to the radio and I get things from my messages by some of the things other people say, because sometimes they really bother me what they say. And I'm not knocking all Christians, but I'm telling you, some of them have some bad ideas. I heard a guy say, none of my unholy friends like coming around me anymore because I'm holy now. And he's preaching about holiness, and that, when you become holy, all these unholy friends don't want to come around you anymore. And I'm thinking, that's not the way it was with Jesus. And I'm pretty certain you weren't as holy as Jesus was. So, I'm sorry. Jesus kind of beats it all out when it comes to holiness. That's a trump card right there. You can't beat Jesus in holiness. But yet, prostitutes. People who were stealing, the tax collectors were stealing from their own people, thieves. Some of the most, the bottom of society when it came to sin. People that, when Jesus would go to these parties, they would talk some stuff. They'd say that, I don't care what you say about this guy. Look good. He's hanging out with these guys. He's a drunkard. He's a glutton. He's a partier. He likes hanging out with all these bad people. But it's the type of people he drew to him. Why? Because he was gentle. Because he was humble. Because he wanted to show God's love to people. He cared. He wanted to give them rest. And I want to ask you this, and this is how can we change the way that people see Jesus? How can we do that? I'm going to give you two things. How can we show people that Christianity isn't too hard? That Christianity is just some horrible thing that they got to suffer through until they die? That Christianity is true life. If Jesus said, he goes, I will give you life and life more abundantly, that he wants to give us life. If he wants to give us life, there's more to it than what we've been showing people. But the first question I got to ask you, and you got to think about this for yourself. If you're a Christian, you have to think about this. Is Christianity too hard for you? If Christianity in your mind is too hard for you, then obviously you're always going to show that to other people. What goes on inside of you is what's going to come out. Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. You get around a person long enough, you can figure out where they're at. We were talking one week about somebody and how they always say that they're positive, blah, 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 whatever, but you're around them long enough and they're going to start talking negative, because that's not what's in their heart. What's in your heart will come out. What's inside of you will come out. If you're a person who constantly worries about something, it's going to come out. People will know it. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? You guys follow. It's going to come out. So if you think Christianity is too hard, it's going to come out. The way that you perceive Christianity, the way that you perceive your relationship with Jesus will be shown to other people. People will see it. People will sense it. People will know, and that's what they're going to get about Jesus. Because I've said this before and it's worth repeating. We are Jesus in this world. We're the only Jesus people are going to see. And if we're not showing the right Jesus, then we're going to turn people off. Because only the real Jesus drew sinners to him. Only the real Jesus drew people to him. So number one, we need to change our perspective. How? Jesus said it here. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me. Learn of me. I think I preached this before, but the idea of taking, back in the Jewish days, okay, so you're talking like Jesus' time. Whenever, like I described to you what a yoke was, now I'm going to take it into a religious perspective, the way that they used to talk about it when it came to like the Torah and the teachings of their faith, that you would take upon yourself a yoke of a teacher, of a rabbi. Like for instance, you read this later on in the Bible where Paul was talking, where one person said, I'm of this person and I'm of that person or whatever, that there was a yoke, that you yoked up with a teacher, a rabbi. Rabbi Smith, he's my rabbi, so I'm yoked up with him. That's the yoke that I took upon. So what you would do is you would follow the steps of that rabbi. You would do the things that rabbi did. If he interpreted the law in a certain way, that's how you interpret it. If they said, if you spit in the ground on the Sabbath and you're working and that's because it's making mud, then you wouldn't spit on the ground because you were yoked up with that rabbi, with his teachings, his interpretation of the Torah. Do you guys understand that? It's really important. It's really important. So Jesus says, take my yoke upon you. Take my teachings. How? Learn of me. Learn of me. What do you want to learn of him? Well, guess what? That I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. If you're learning something about Jesus, it should bring you to a place where you understand that he's gentle, that he's humble, and he brings you rest. And he said, well, wait a second. What if I'm a sinner? Well, yeah, that's perfect. If you're living in sin right now and you learn of Jesus, you learn that what you're doing is wrong, but he paid the price and he can deliver you, he's going to bring you rest. If you're living in sin, I can guarantee you're not living in rest. You're not. It just doesn't work. You can't have sin and rest at the same time. Well, what if I was raised in a church where I was taught some religious stuff? Great. Get yoked up with his teaching. Yoke yourself up with the real rabbi and figure out how he interprets things. They're gentle, they're humble, and they bring you rest. Do you guys follow me on that? Okay. He says to learn of him and rest. If we live in rest, what does it mean to rest? Now think about it. Have you ever heard anybody say, I'm not looking forward to going home. You're at work, work had a hard day. You're sitting around talking to some people right before it's time to go, and they go, I just don't want to go home. And why? Well, I got to go home and rest. Just don't want to do that. No. I mean, come on. I want to get home. I want to sit down on the couch and barely stay awake while I watch TV. That's what I want to do.
Amen.
Yeah, see? I mean, why? Because we like to rest. How many times has anybody seen the Corona commercial where the guy's sitting on the beach and he's sitting back I don't like Corona. I don't know why, but I would drink one just because I saw that commercial. Is that what it does for me? All right. Why? Because we like to rest. We do, right?
Yeah.
To say to rest is never a negative thing. It's not. It's not a negative thing. There's never anything in your mind that says, I just don't want to rest. Everybody wants to rest. When you learn of Jesus. I love this part here, and I'm going to add this here. Where it says, verse 30, where it says, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. That word easy is totally mistranslated out of the Greek if you have a New American Standard. If you have a different Bible, you can see this. In my New American Standard, it does give an opposite translation, which says, my yoke is pleasant. It's pleasant. I love that word, pleasant. Even though it's kind of a prissy word, but it's still, I like the word. It's pleasant. It's not just easy. It's easy, because then you think, everything's going to be... No, it's pleasant. Yeah, there might be times that while you're going with Jesus and you're going along, there might be times that you got to, pick up something. You got to do this, you got to do that. You're working together. Yeah, there might be times that it might not be easy, but it's always going to be pleasant. Why? If I told you that, you had to go and... let me give you a good example. Here's a good example. Okay,